You're watching the Common Constitutionalist Weekend Video Podcast.
Hey there, my name is Brent Smith, and once again, this is the Common Constitutionalist Weekend Video Podcast. And in case you're wondering, I am the Common Constitutionalist. I guess I have two names. At any rate, I've got one topic. It's an important topic. I hate that it's an important topic, but it's vitally important. And the topic today is going to dovetail into what I really want to talk about. But the video podcast today is entitled, Dems Use COVID to Stop the Barrett Hearings. Okay? They'll do anything to stop the Amy Coney Barrett hearings, slander her, libel her, do whatever they need to do, shut the hearings down, and now Trump has been diagnosed with COVID, and his wife, and Mike Lee, who's on the Judiciary Committee that runs the hearings. I'll get into that. I'll be right back after this. And again, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, don't forget to share. What I leave out? I don't know. I'm so good at this. It's pathetic. Okay, I'll be right back. Now, I've got notes. I don't want to diverge from these notes this time because this is really important stuff, and I will venture to say that 99.9 people in America don't have this information, aren't aware of it, and that's why it's so vitally important that we, conservatives, get the message out. Anybody that has any reverence for actual real science, not this fake phony science like global warming nonsense, but real science when it comes to this COVID-19 pandemic nonsense. We've got to get the word out, and we just need to keep hammering and hammering and hammering until enough people understand that it's not as big a deal as it is. Here we go. This is I found this at the Blaze. Senate Dems seek delay in Amy Coney Barrett hearings, citing coronavirus risk. We don't know the full extent of potential exposure stemming from the president's infection. I think it was probably Schumer that said that. So, the Blaze writes, quote, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senate Judiciary Committee Ranking Member Dianne No Mask Feinstein. Oh yeah, baby. He didn't say no mask. Issued a joint statement Friday calling on Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Woolsey Graham to hold off on moving forward with hearings on U.S. Supreme Court Justice nominee Amy Coney Barrett. Could we just call her Amy Barrett? I mean, enough with the Coney nonsense. And she was born on Coney Island. I don't know, whatever, who cares? Citing risks of spreading COVID-19 in light of President Donald Trump and Senator Mike Lee, Republican of Utah, testing positive for the virus, unquote. So right off of the bat, I thought, has it been, bear with me, has it been, and I realize this is the President of the United States, who has the best medical care on planet Earth. But I have to ask, because I haven't heard, has it been 100% confirmed that President Trump and the First Lady and Mike Lee, in fact, have the COVID-19 virus? The reason why I ask will become readily apparent shortly. They're both asymptomatic. As far as I know, they're still both asymptomatic, as well as Mike Lee is asymptomatic. Most of the people who are asymptomatic turn out not to even had COVID-19. They're false positives, and I will get into that shortly. So why on earth do I ask whether they've actually been confirmed to have COVID-19? And what do I mean by 100% confirmed? Okay, I'm going to cover all this. That's why I got to stick to my notes so I don't drone on forever over nonsense. They tested positive, you might say. Isn't that confirmation enough? The shorter answer is no. Heck no, it isn't enough. Not anymore, not for what we've found out, or for what some of us have known for a good while now, and unfortunately have been unable to disseminate to enough people to get the word out. So I'm going to explain this for the umpteenth time with even more information and more proof by more sources that even leftists are supposed to trust. If you've ever watched or listened to me, my podcasts, or read my articles on the subject of COVID-19 and testing, you'll know what the PCR test, the polymerase chain reaction test is, and how it's used by labs, okay? Because it's a lab test. They do the swab, they send the test to the lab, or they have a lab on site. More than likely they'll send the test out expeditiously to a lab, and the lab will do this PCR test. So here's what happens to your swab. Your samples get sent to a lab, as I said. It's then run through, or gets what's called cycled through. You have to remember these terms. They're very important. They get cycled through a piece of lab equipment, then picks up the presence of the coronavirus bacteria or virus, whatever you want to call it. They keep running the sample, cycle by cycle after cycle after cycle, until they're satisfied that there is no presence of the virus. And if they don't find anything, then you're completely clean after many, many cycles of testing, okay? That sounds like a good thing. It ain't, okay? The problem, which they've known, I hate to say, for a couple of decades, because they found this out, I want to say, either in the 90s or around 2000 or something like that. So it's been at least a couple of decades. Is just how many cycles are enough and how many cycles are too many, okay? You've heard me talk about the oversensitivity of these swab tests. I may have misspoke a little bit or miscommunicated that it's not the swab test that's oversensitive, it's the cycles, the many, many, many cycles that they put this thing through that make it too sensitive, and I'll get into that in a minute. I just want to, keep this moving. You may have heard another term called the cycle threshold, and that's what they're talking about. The maximum amount of cycles that you're supposed to test or should test for the presence of coronavirus, of the COVID-19 virus, okay? With every cycle they run the sample through, the sensitivity is increased. You have to remember this. Play it back, I don't care. If you get it from another source at this point, I don't give a crap, okay? Like them, share them, I don't care. This stuff has to get out one way or the other. It just has to. Like I said, with every cycle, they run the sample through, and the sensitivity is increased, so it is able to pick up smaller and smaller and smaller presence of the virus, of a coronavirus, of any virus. Remember that, of any virus. It's like bringing a pair of binoculars into focus, You put it up to your eyes, and you start out being able to see shapes, and they look a little foggy or a little hazy or whatnot. And as you turn that lensing wheel, it gets clearer and clearer and clearer until you can see incredible detail from incredible distance. Okay, that's this many cycle test. But I guess I analogize it as, say you're out in the woods, or you're out in the field or something, and you see something far away, so you get your binoculars out. It might be a deer, it might not be, it might just be a tree stump. So you get your binoculars out and you start focusing on it, and pretty soon it's apparent, absolutely apparent, evident that it's a deer. But you don't need to focus enough or magnify so much that you can count the flies buzzing around the deer's butt to know it's a deer. That's too sensitive. It doesn't make any difference. It's useless information. It just is. You know it's a deer. That's as far as you have to go. That's the cycling. That's the cycle threshold that they should go to, and they go way beyond it. Let me get to it. I'm getting there. Come on, baby. Yeah, buddy. I'm on a roll, mommy. There we go. Okay, because these experts have the sensitivity or cycle threshold cranked up to like 1,000. Actually, it's 40. That's the threshold. The cycle is 40. The threshold is 40 cycles. Keeps going, and every time it gets more sensitive, more sensitive, and more sensitive. 40 times over. That the sensitivity of the lab test is so great that the test is picking up traces of old viruses that are effectively dead or dormant, floating around in most of our bodies because we've had other viruses and other coronaviruses and flus and common colds and all sorts of crap like that are just floating around in our bodies, and they're dead or dormant, and they pose no threat to anyone or to ourselves. And because the test is so sensitive, it's picking up these viruses, and so they're calling these dead and dormant traces of virus COVID-19. You don't have to believe me, though, because I'm a right-wing tinfoil hat-wearing whack job, okay? You can believe, how about the New York Times, okay, the paper of record, if you're for the bottom of your parakeet cage, in my opinion, but many people still hold the Times in august review, so to speak, okay? Matter of fact, I'm going to get to the Times. I'm going to take a real quick break, take a breath, and I'll be right back to give you the New York Times perspective on my wacky right-wing conspiracy, and just see how close I am to reality.
You're watching the Common Constitutionalist video podcast.
Yeah, baby!
Okay, before the break, I went over the sensitivity and the cycle rate and the cycle threshold that's set at 40, which is extremely, way too high, okay? And we'll get into that in a little bit too. So you'll believe me because I have evidence, okay? Actual evidence from other people, not just me. I ain't making this crap up, people, all right? So this is from the New York Times. Quote, the PCR test, the polymerase chain reaction test, this is quote, the PCR test, polymerase chain reaction test, amplifies genetic matter from the virus, the coronavirus or COVID-19, in cycles. The fewer the cycles required, the greater the amount of virus, or now listen, you have to listen to this crap, this is important. Cycles, 40 cycles, cycle threshold, okay? Viral load, you have to remember this stuff and why it's important. You've got to write it down if you have to, I don't care, okay? The PCR test amplifies genetic matter from the virus in cycles. The fewer cycles required, the greater amount of virus, okay, or viral load is in the sample. The greater the viral load, the more likely the patient is to be contagious have COVID-19, have symptoms, and be contagious, okay? The fewer cycles required. This number, still quoting the Times, this number of amplification cycles needed to find the virus, called the cycle threshold. Gee, where have you heard that before? Moi, okay, the non-science guy, Bill Nye, the non-science guy, is never listen to this, listen. The number of amplification cycles, or the viral load, called the threshold cycle, is never included in the results sent to doctors about corona patients, although it could tell them how infectious the patients are. You don't think that's vital, people? Do you not think that that's vital? The rate of infection how infectious these people are, that if you did 10 cycles and you found the coronavirus, okay, they need to be quarantined for sure. Get them the hell out of society, okay? Quoting the Times again, tests with thresholds so high, 40 cycles, may detect not... Listen to this and tell me where you haven't heard this about 10 freaking minutes ago. Man, I can't believe... I am so mad at this stuff because it's not even misinformation. It's omission of vital information, okay? That could calm people down, but that's not what they want to do. They want to keep people in fear. They want to keep people locked down, away from one another. Oh, I'm just so mad about this stuff. Tests with thresholds so high, 40 cycles, may detect not just live virus, but also genetic fragments left over from infections that pose no particular risk, akin to finding a hair in a room after a person has left. There you go. This is the New York freaking Times writing this, people. A more reasonable cutoff, listen to this. A more reasonable cutoff would be 30 cycles, maybe 35, but that figure should be set, according to actual experts, at 30 or even less. About 20 to 30 would be perfect. Beyond 30, all you're doing is picking up nonsense. But nobody is asking, that's the thing is that none of these doctors, none of these experts, not the CDC, not the WHO, none of these organizations or experts are asking to provide threshold data for positive results. That is absolutely vitally important. You've got to get this, people. You have to get this word out. It's important that people know this crap. How many times have you heard, but the CDC said it, so it must be true? It's the CDC after all. It's the WHO after all. It's Dr. Fauci after all. It's Dr. Birx after all. You have to believe these people. No, you don't, because they aren't asking for the data. Maybe because they don't know it's out there? Bull crap. Yes, they do. They know it's there. They're not asking for it because they don't care. There's only two explanations. Because they just don't care. This would be, in my opinion, okay, an analogy. This would be akin to authorities not testing whether a guy was drunk when he wrecked his car or hit somebody. But the prosecutor just saying, yeah, he was drunk, just take my word for it. What? Yes, he's got COVID. Take our word for it. Okay? How many cycles? What was the cycle threshold? It was 77. What the frick? You know, you picked up a virus that the kid had when he was an infant, and now he's 58 years old. Or something. It's just completely insane. It makes no sense. All of this info, I hope you would agree, is pretty damn germane to this argument. Don't you think? I don't know. Okay, so now listen to this. This is still from the New York Times, people. The New York Times. It's not Limbaugh. It ain't Hannity. It's not from Trump. This is directly from a New York Times article I pulled off the interweb. Who day? Well, Saturday, depending on when you're seeing this. Quote, in 3 sets of testing, listen to this. In 3 sets of testing data that include cycle thresholds compiled by officials in Massachusetts, New York, and Nevada, up to including cycle thresholds of probably 40, I'm going to guess. Up to 90% of the people tested positive, carrying barely any virus, a review of the New York Times found. On Thursday, which was only about 3 weeks ago, they originally wrote this article in August and then updated it on the 17th of September or something like that. On Thursday, the United States recorded 45,604 new coronavirus cases, according to a database maintained by the Times. Okay? So when you hear this, 46,000 people contracted COVID, listen to this. If the rates of contagiousness in Massachusetts and New York were to be applied nationwide, because they included the cycle rates, and the cycle rates ended up being, I guess they backed them down to like 30 or something like that, then perhaps only 4,500 of those people may actually need to be isolated. That's 10%, which means 90% didn't have to be isolated at all. They didn't have to be contact traced. They didn't have to be hassled by authorities. Nothing. That's what I'm talking about. This is all political theater, people. Come on. You got to be getting the picture by now. Either that or I'm just not doing a very damn good job of this. It's got to be one or the other. This is such a crock of crap with this whole COVID thing, is that the vast majority of the people, this is such a crock of crap, this COVID thing, is for the vast majority of Americans, us, and we on the right are so pissed off. Well, scratch that. Okay. Now, add to that revelation the cycles, the cycle threshold, virus cycles, overdiagnosis, oversensitivity, all this stuff, and the fact that the labs aren't being asked to release the data, the cycle threshold, with the results is criminal, frankly. Add this to that revelation, and I'll give you another bombshell variable that has to be accounted for: lab corruption. I'm not talking about criminal corruption. I'm talking about incidental or accidental corruption of samples that are to be tested, or corruption because of dirty equipment or infected equipment that isn't cleaned properly, sterility of the equipment and that kind of stuff, okay, that are giving bogus results. And again, you don't have to believe me, okay? This is from the AP, and this is from late August about the NFL, but it's not even a month and a half old, okay, from the AP. Quote, the NFL had 77 positive COVID tests from 11 different teams re-examined by a New Jersey lab after false positives, and all those tests came back negative. Initial tests, the initial PCR test, showed 77 positive COVID-19 infections across 11 teams. They were retested again. This is where the NFL figured out, oh my gosh, this is our livelihood we're talking about. We've got to retest these and see if they're actual positive. 100% false positive. 100%. All 77 were false positives. Okay? Imagine what that would do to a team or teams or several teams, 11 teams, losing some key players. You lose your quarterback, you lose your star running back, you lose your star wide receiver, your star left tackle, whatever the crap it happens to be, and you didn't have to quarantine them because the cycle rate was so high, the cycle threshold and the viral load was so low that they couldn't be contagious and they didn't have the COVID. Okay? That's what the crap happened. So we got all that. And why? Because the original lab they used turned out to be contaminated. It wasn't cleaned and sterilized properly to begin with. So as they cycled through, it was picking up viruses on the equipment and calling everything positive. Holy crap. So you've got oversensitivity of tests, the PCR test. You've got the fact that the lab results aren't being released to patients or doctors or politicians or any experts, the CDC, nobody. And then you've got contaminated lab equipment giving you false results. Somebody's got to ask, how the hell can this be? I mean, you got to ask it, okay? These people are supposed to be the experts. Aren't we supposed to be listening to the damn experts? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Listen to the experts and do what they say. If the experts say you have to wear a mask 24/7, 365, by cracky, that's what you got to do. No, you damn lemmings, take the mask off. You're under almost no threat, all right? More people under the age of, say, 65, 70 years old die of the flu than they do of coronavirus. It's just that simple, okay? It is. I hope you're asking, how in the crap do we not already know this stuff? How do we not, or how haven't we heard this? Okay? Unless you're watching me or Glenn Beck or Ben Shapiro or somebody like that, you're not getting this information because they don't want you to have this information. If I'm a dope, I'm a freaking dope. If I can figure this out, if I can find this, and it took me an hour's worth of research to do this, that's all. Now I had a leg up because I've been doing a lot of articles and a lot of research prior to this, so I kind of knew where I was going with this and what questions to ask of Google or Yahoo or whoever, okay? But the facts are that one of the reasons why I've called this political pandemic, why people like Steve Deese call it pandemic porn, because just like freedom, okay, as opposed to safety. Remember that during the debates? Trump wants freedom. Trump wants people to get back to work, okay? Biden wants safety. Safety, 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 okay? So, I ask again, did Trump, now, the NFL, let me back up. The NFL learned its lesson. Everybody that tests coronavirus positive, COVID-19 positive on the first time around, they're given 2 more tests to make sure that they've actually got it, where they're cycled down to make sure that the viral load is sufficient, but not too sensitive, and the cycles aren't too much, just about right, probably between 25 and 30. And if you go beyond 30, forget about it. It's like you don't even have the daggum thing, and you probably don't. Okay, that's why my first thought when I heard that both Donald Trump and Melania Trump were asymptomatic, that's the first thing I thought. Was this confirmed? Double, triple, quadruple testing to make sure, okay, that the cycle rate was proper, that the viral load was enough, that all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted? One would think, because he went to Walter Reed, he's the president of basically the free world, the most important, powerful man in the free world. You'd think you'd get the best advice and the best care. Frankly, I don't even know anymore, because we haven't heard what kind of confirmation that they've got. That kind of stuff should be released to the public. This is the PCR test that we did. We did it 3 times. We tested it 3 separate times on separate cleaned pieces of equipment. We did cycles up to X, whatever that is, and this is the viral load that he carries, so he is indeed infected. So far he's asymptomatic. Whatever the crap, okay? Just let us know, so we know yes or no, or whether this is just some sort of deep state. And I hate going there, but you kind of got to, because all this stuff is out there and nobody's talking about it. So what else can you think but it's a damn conspiracy? What else am I supposed to think? That everybody's just making an honest mistake? Bullcrap, okay? And so now the Schumer and No Mask Feinstein don't want to have the Senate hearings, confirmation hearings of Amy Barrett, and the reason is that we can't maintain safety and whatnot, and a virtual hearing just won't do. This is too important. It just won't do. Bullcrap. A virtual hearing won't do because you people are going to have to be at home on monitors, which means that you can't grandstand in front of the entire world with all your homies, okay, in tow. And you also can't sneak your leftist radicals into the audience that hold signs that Trump should die or something, or, you know, Amy Coney Barrett should be aborted and her children sent back to Haiti. Something. I know, some completely inane, ridiculous statement. And then they get up and they yell and they scream and they disrupt the hearing. You can't have that, unfortunately, when you're doing virtual hearings. That's why they don't want the hearing. They don't want the hearings because they know she's awesome, apparently. I don't know. So far, Gorsuch, not so much. Kavanaugh, absolutely not so much. Barrett better be a damn home run, okay? But at any rate, that's what I've got. That's the reason why they don't want the hearings, because they can't have it in person in front of the entire world. with all their senators chiming in and cutting off the Republicans and everything else, and for their radical base in the snuck into the bleacher seats and screaming and hollering and getting kicked out and doing all sorts of nonsense. That's why they don't want this, because they know more than likely she'll be confirmed. That's all I got. Please share this. Learn this stuff and disseminate it to your friends and relatives and any non-believers. And that's why I included the AP and the Times, so they don't have to believe more. See ya.